Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment and especially on their children than the unlived life of the parent. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, there's a hollow ache in your soul when you think of your father? Before you scroll, comment below if you've ever struggled with a father wound, whether it's absence, anger, silence, or confusion. You're not alone. And by the end of this video, you'll understand more than you ever have about your inner world. Stay to the end, because it's not just about understanding the pain, it's about finally being free from it. The father wound is not simply a psychological scar, it is an energetic fracture in the psyche, a sacred space where the archetype of the father protector, provider, presence was meant to dwell. And yet, for many, that space is either vacant, distorted, or hauntingly painful. As a result, the shadow seeps in. Men grow into fathers while still children inside. Women seek love in men who echo their father's neglect or domination. The wound perpetuates in cycles that dance just beneath the threshold of awareness. In analytical psychology, the father is more than a person. He represents the law, the word, the voice of authority, the structure of the outer world. When the father fails to embody this archetype properly, the psyche of the child collapses inward or mutates outward. Either we become overly rigid, controlled by the need to prove ourselves to an invisible patriarch, or we drift without aim, yearning for direction we never received. The child's psyche, still soft and forming, makes unconscious contracts to survive. If I am silent, I'll be safe. If I become perfect, I'll be seen. If I don't cry, maybe he'll love me. These inner pacts shape identity, emotions, and even physiology. Over time, they harden into neuroses, psychosomatic illness, spiritual numbness. This is the path of the unexamined father wound. But healing is possible, and it begins with awareness. The moment you realize that your current emotional patterns are echoes of an earlier loss, you step outside the automatic cycle and into conscious responsibility. This is not to blame, but to reclaim. The soul does not heal by denial, it heals by integration. We must turn and face the father within, not as judge, but as witness. Some of you had fathers who were physically present but emotionally absent. The silent father, the distracted father. These wounds often go unnoticed because there was no visible trauma, but the effect is equally profound. The child learns that emotional needs are inconvenient. Vulnerability becomes shameful. You grow up fearing the emptiness more than anything, because emptiness is what you always return to after reaching out. Others had fathers who were domineering, volatile, or cruel. The tyrant father, the punisher, the manipulator. These wounds often breed hypervigilance, perfectionism, and deep distrust. The child becomes an emotional contortionist, always trying to predict, prevent, or pacify. Your nervous system learns to brace for impact even in moments of peace. This is trauma not just in memory, but in muscle, breath, and heartbeat. And then, there are those whose fathers simply vanished, through death, abandonment, or disappearance. This is the wound of the ghost, the haunting sense that something sacred was taken before it could be named. It leaves a hole that becomes filled with fantasy, longing, resentment, or rebellion. You build castles around the pain, but the father never returns. Jung taught that the process of individuation, the full integration of the psyche, requires confronting our parental complexes. This is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a spiritual one. The father complex is not just a set of ideas, it is an energy field lodged deep in the unconscious. To heal it, we must descend. First, you must name the wound, journal, reflect. Feel the anger you were not allowed to express. Let yourself grieve not just what was done, but what was never given. There is a difference. Many carry sorrow not for what happened, but for what never did. The hug that never came, the words never spoken, the protection never felt. Second, enter the body. The wound is not stored in the mind, it is stored in the somatic field. Do you tighten your shoulders every time someone raises their voice? Do you feel your chest collapse when you think of confrontation? These are imprints of the father wound. Breathwork, trauma-informed yoga, and somatic therapy are not luxuries. They are necessary tools for rewriting the body's narrative. Third, recognize the projection. Many of you are projecting your unmet father needs onto bosses, partners, pastors, or even God. When the father wound is unhealed, we unconsciously seek surrogates. This is dangerous because no one can fulfill a role that was meant to be archetypal. You may find yourself clinging to authority figures, craving praise, or reacting with intense emotion when rejected. These are not failures, these are echoes, and echoes lose their power when recognized. Fourth, forgive not to excuse but to release. Forgiveness does not mean the father was right. It means you will no longer carry his sin as your identity. You no longer define your worth based on his blindness. You forgive to free yourself from the invisible leash that tugs every time you rise. This is not a feeling, but a decision one made again and again until the energy shifts. Fifth, you must become the father. This is the final step, the most terrifying and the most liberating. You become the father you never had, for yourself, and if possible, for others. You embody the voice that says, "I am proud of you." You create boundaries that protect, not punish. You speak truth without crushing tenderness. You become the authority not by domination, but by integration. In Jungian terms, this is the inner union of the animus and anima, the sacred, masculine, and feminine within. The healed father does not repress the feminine, he protects her. He does not dominate the child within, he nurtures it. When this union begins to take shape, your outer world transforms. You no longer seek a savior, you become sovereign. And yes, it will be messy. Healing the father wound is not linear. You will revisit pain you thought you had overcome. Memories will arise when you least expect them. You may regress. Rage, retreat. That is not failure. That is movement. The psyche, like the body, heals in spirals. Trust the spiral. Honor the seasons. You may cry. Let yourself. You may tremble. Let yourself. You may feel nothing at all. That too is part of the thaw. For too long, your inner child has stood at the door, knocking, afraid to be seen, afraid to be dismissed. Now open the door, listen, hold him. Tell him what no one told you, you are safe now. And if you are someone who had a good father, but still feel wounded, understand this: the archetype of the father is larger than the man. Even with a loving father, society, religion, or culture may have distorted the image. Perhaps you were taught that obedience matters more than authenticity, that discipline is love but affection is weakness. These are wounds, too, subtle but suffocating. You are allowed to examine them. There is a hidden strength in those who carry the father wound. You have learned to survive in silence, to endure. But survival is not living. You were not meant to walk through life armored and alone. You were meant to lead not through fear, but through wisdom, not through dominance, but through presence. The wound, when integrated, becomes a wellspring of empathy, discernment, and depth. Carl Jung believed that the self is born through suffering, that the crucible of pain refines the soul. The father wound, for all its devastation, holds within it a door. Not all who are wounded walk through it, but you can. And when you do, you will see something astonishing. The man who hurt you was also a boy, broken, burdened, repeating patterns he did not understand. This does not excuse, it reveals. The chain can end with you. Stay with me in this process. This is not theory, it is transformation. Comment, I'm ready if you've carried this wound too long and want the next part. The path ahead is real. The steps are clear. The freedom is closer than you think. There is no going back to change what was not given. But there is a path forward that allows us to recover what was lost by becoming what we needed. And now that we have uncovered the wound, we begin the deeper work not of just grieving, but of reintegrating the broken fragments of the self. This next part is not about remembering pain, but about rewriting your story from a place of inner authority. This is where the wound becomes wisdom. Let me ask you something difficult, but important. What did you become in order to survive your father? Did you become the achiever, constantly seeking validation in success? Did you become the rebel, scorning rules and burning bridges just to feel alive? Or maybe you became invisible, quiet, good, compliant, because it was the only way to feel safe. These identities served you once, but they are not your true self. They are masks crafted by necessity, and it is time to lay them down. The wound shaped your defenses, but the deeper self, the self with a capital S, remains untouched beneath it all. In Jungian thought, the self is the totality of the psyche, both conscious and unconscious. It is not harmed by trauma. It waits to be discovered. And that is your task now, to recover your wholeness, not by pretending the wound never happened, but by integrating it as part of your initiation. You see, every soul is initiated through pain, not because pain is sacred in itself, but because it breaks the ego's illusion of control. The father wound is a fire that burns away naivety and forces us into spiritual maturity. You thought you needed him to affirm you. Now you see you were always whole, but you had to go through the absence to awaken to your own presence. This does not mean you stop needing others. It means you learn to relate differently. The healed son does not beg for scraps of affection. He offers connection from a place of fullness. The healed daughter does not confuse dominance for devotion. She knows her worth without external validation. This shift is quiet, but revolutionary. It changes the way you love, the way you work, the way you breathe. But beware of spiritual bypassing. Do not rush to say, I'm healed, because the pain feels distant for a week. Healing is cyclical. You will revisit memories you thought were buried. You will see new angles of the old story. Let it come. The psyche is a labyrinth, not a ladder. Each turn brings you closer, even when it feels like a step back. You are not failing. You are returning to collect the forgotten pieces of your soul. There may come a moment in your healing where rage returns. This is not regression. This is permission. Many who carry the father wound have never been allowed to feel anger, especially if the father was seen as fragile or godlike. But suppressed rage becomes depression. It becomes numbness. Let yourself feel it. Scream into the void. Write letters you never send. Punch the pillow, not the person. Your anger is not toxic. It is sacred fire. It says, this mattered, I mattered. And beneath the rage there is sorrow. Not just sadness, but sacred sorrow, the deep ache that comes when you finally understand what you never received. Let it break you open. Let the tears come like baptism. The alchemy of healing begins here. The rawness is not weakness. It is proof that you are still alive. The numbness was a defense. This is your return. Eventually, something surprising will emerge: compassion, not just for yourself, but even for the father. You begin to see the man behind the mask. Maybe he, too, had a wound he never named. Maybe he was never taught how to love, how to be present, how to hold space for another soul. This realization can be painful because it means the apology may never come, but it can also be freeing. You no longer wait for his redemption to validate your healing. Forgiveness deepens, not the shallow kind that demands forgetting, but the soulful kind that says, I refuse to carry this pain into the next generation. You end the cycle not by erasing history, but by responding to it differently. You become the kind of father, mother, mentor, or friend you never had. You rewrite the legacy. You bless the bloodline with your awareness. And for those of you who are parents now, the work becomes sacred in a new way. You may fear repeating what was done to you. You may already see shadows of your own father in how you speak to your children. Do not let shame paralyze you. Let it awaken you. Your awareness alone breaks generational curses. You do not have to be perfect. You have to be present. You have to be willing to say, I was wrong. I'm learning. Let's grow together. That humility is more powerful than any performance. Some of you may never reconcile with your earthly father. He may be gone, or unsafe, or unwilling. That is okay. Healing does not require his participation. The wound lives within you, not him. Your work is inward, and the final stages of this path require you to reimagine the father archetype altogether. You begin to see that behind the human father is the divine father, the original archetype of order, wisdom, guidance, and presence, the sacred masculine in its uncorrupted form. When you connect to that higher source, not through religion, but through relationship, you stop needing your father to be God. You stop mistaking human flaws for divine rejection. You begin to feel held, not by a person, but by presence itself. Jung often spoke of the necessity of reconciling with the image of God within us. He warned of projecting unresolved father issues onto our conception of the divine. If your father was punitive, you may see God as wrathful. If your father was absent, you may see God as indifferent. Healing the father wound allows you to meet the divine without distortion. You no longer worship in fear, you commune in freedom. You will know you are healing when the patterns change, when you no longer choose relationships based on unconscious longing, when you speak truth without trembling, when you walk away from manipulation, not because you're angry, but because you finally believe you deserve peace. These are the fruits of inner work. There will be moments of relapse. You may fall into old roles, regress under stress, or doubt your progress. This is human, this is natural. The psyche expands in waves, not straight lines. But each time you return to yourself more quickly, each time the trigger has less power, each time you remember, I'm not that child anymore. I am the one who chooses now. Eventually, the wound becomes a well. It holds pain, yes, but also depth, empathy, and insight. You begin to help others not by preaching, but by presence. Your voice carries weight, not because it is loud, but because it is rooted. Your silence speaks volumes. You become what you once lacked, and that is the miracle. So if you are listening to this now and wondering if your pain is too much, let me tell you this. The fact that you are here, seeking, feeling, naming it, means the process has already begun. The soul does not call you toward healing unless it is ready. You are ready, and the path is already unfolding beneath your feet. Your task now is to stay with it. Keep showing up. Keep holding space for the broken parts of you to speak. They are not here to destroy you. They are here to be seen, heard, and loved back into wholeness. You do not have to do it alone. There are guides, therapists, elders, and even strangers who can walk with you. But ultimately, you must be the one who decides, I will not pass this wound forward. I will turn and face it, and I will heal. And healing does not mean forgetting. It means remembering with clarity, without being consumed. It means holding the story in your hands and saying, yes, this happened, but I have the pen now. You become the author of your own narrative. No longer reactive, no longer trapped, but awake, aware, free. To those still waiting for their father to say the words, I will say them to you. Now I see you. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. You were worthy then, and you are worthy now, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You are not too much. You are not too broken. You are loved, and you are becoming the person you were always meant to be. This is the gift of the wound. It points the way. It humbles the ego. It breaks the heart open so that light can get in. As Jung said, only the wounded physician heals. You are that physician. You are that healer. You are that survivor turned sovereign. And your story matters more than you know. So walk forward now, not as a victim, but as a voyager, not as one abandoned, but as one awakening. The Father within you is rising, not the man, but the archetype, the voice that says, I am with you. I will not leave. I will guide you home. When you arrive at that inner home, may you meet the child you once were, smiling at the threshold. You'll know what to do then. You'll pick him up. You'll whisper, we made it. And for the first time, that little one will believe it.